Hello, this is the class of the data structure and algorithms, and today I'm going to discuss about object-oriented programming. We already learned the basic Python. So on the previous courses, we learned about Python Primero, Series 1 and Series 2. And today we are going to discuss more about the Python, and specifically we are going to discuss about object-oriented programming. So the object-oriented programming, I would like to discuss three things. The first, I'm going to give you a basic definition about the object-oriented, and after we know the examples in Python for the object-oriented, we are going to discuss more about the object-oriented design principles. So some design patterns in object-oriented will be discussed in the subsection 2, and after we discussed about the design patterns, we are going to learn some examples about the abstract data types. Okay. First, let's deal with the basic definition of the object-oriented. When we deal with the object-oriented, we need to know about the goal. So when you learn about the first Python, we learn about the Python primer. The Python primer contains this one slide about object. As I mentioned before, Python is an object-oriented programming. Then there is a kind of object we can try to utilize that object to make the program better. So the goal of object-oriented programming, actually there are three. This is the definition that I get from the book that I already put as the reference. First is about the robustness. We want the software to be capable of handling unexpected inputs that are not explicitly defined for its application. So if you have one object and you want to add a new input, if you have a new object, let's say I have uh, I have a design about car. So if you want to make a new car, a new brand car, then you can just use the existing car design and you can modify some parts, or you can modify the interior of the car, or you can modify the tire of the car, or you can modify the machine of the car. So using this object oriented, the robustness of the program can be enhanced. And the adaptability. The adaptability means the software needs to be able to evolve over time in response to changing condition in its environment. So if we have the object, let's say now we have a car and we want to design a new car, which is an autonomous car. So if it is an autonomous car, we need to add more machine. We need to put more electrical stuff into the car so the car can drive automatically without any driver. So this kind of adaptability, if we have already the design of the car, then we can just embed more something related with the autonomous car. Okay? And it's also deal with the reusability. So the same code should be usable as a component of different systems in various applications. So if I already have the design about car and I want to design a new type of car, for example, the SUV, then I can just use the existing car design and I just redesign the exterior of the car. Then we can get a new car, which is the SUV. And also there are many kind of cars that we can use if you already have the basic car design. Okay? So the goal of object oriented is similar what the example that I mentioned about a car. So the terminology that we need to understand about the object, okay, we have object and we have instance, we have data members, we have methods. So each object created in a program, we call it instance. Each class presents the outside world a concise and consistent view of the object. There are instances of this class. without going too much unnecessary details and giving other access to the inner working of the objects. So I can say just when you have a class, you will have instance, yeah, and every class will have instance variables, and we call it data members, and the object contains as well as the methods known as member functions that the object can execute. So let's see. I have one object. Okay, I have a person object. Let's say this is the name. Okay, I can make one class diagram. Okay, I don't want to discuss the more detail about this class diagram. If you already joined the computer programming course, I guess you already know a little bit about the object oriented. So this course is not merely about the object oriented, but we are going to design the algorithm and some data structure that is beneficial for your future. So I will skip many details. I just give a brief introduction about the object. So this is one example of the class diagram. So using the word class, it defines the class name. And if you know that we are using the def is to define the method. So when you use Python, then you can specify something like this one, class, and then you define the class name, which is person, and then I have def is the method, it is a function, and I have one method which is say hi, and then self. Okay, so we will discuss about later about self, and I have one statement which is print how are you. Okay, if you have one class, then you want to create objects. What is object? So object means the person itself. I have the person one, I have the person two, and I have the person three, and each person is one instance. So I can say that the P1 is the first instance, and the P2 is the second instance. Okay, the P1 is the first instance, P2 is the second instance, and the P3 is the third instance. Then if I have one person class, so one class can include many instances. So one class of the person can include three persons. Yeah, and yeah, you can create another person P4, P5, P6, and so on. So those are the instances. And now we just have one method. We call it, this is the method say hi. And in order to access the method, you need to use dot. Okay, so we learned before the dot is to access the function or methods from a class. And the result will be, how are you? Why? Because in this class or in this method, you will print how are you. Let's see with the example. Okay, let's see the examples in the Python. So I hope that you already open your Jupyter notebook. You have your Jupyter lab, and I already prepared this one. Okay, the first example is I have a class, and the class name is person, so it's exactly the same with the PowerPoint. And then I have one method which is the say hi, and I just include self. And then when I connect to this one, I will print how are you. And if you run this, okay, so let's say I create one instance which is P1. So P1 is an instance from the object person. So the P1 you need to express with the equal sign and call the class name which is person. So P1 dot say hi. Okay, it means I know that this is the object of a person and I want to access the method say hi because this person has the property of this method. So I can just access this method and the result will be how are you. Okay, so the class definitions, it is the The class serves as the primary means for abstraction in object-oriented programming. So you will see later there will be a lot of classes, okay, that we are going to learn, and the class is the primary means for the abstraction. And in Python, every piece of data is represented as an instance of some class. So later we will learn that when you have a class, you will create an instance. A class provides a set of behaviors in the form of member functions. We have methods. Okay, the first method we have is say hi, and the implementation shall belong to all its instances. So once you create one instance, then the instance can access all the methods. A class also serves as a blueprint for each instances, effectively determining the way that state information for each instance is represented in the form of attributes. So we have the attributes now. Yeah, in the previous example, you don't have any attributes, but later we will deal with the attributes. Some literatures mention it is fields. Some other literatures mention it is instance variables. Some other mention data members. Then yeah, it is okay. All are the same. So it's only the name from the literatures. I'm going to say it about the data members, but sometimes I will just use attributes for easy understanding. And in Python, we have what we call self-identifier. So the self-identifier plays a key role, the role that will be the instances in the particular object. So in any class, there can be possibly be many different instances, and each must maintain its own instance variables. So the self is a kind of indicator from Python to know that what is the current instance, what is the current instance variable. Okay? So each instance stores its own instance variables to reflect its current state, and syntactically self-identify the instance upon which a method is invoked. So when you have the self, it means the Python will try to save your instance into a kind of memory in your computer. So if you have P1, okay, you will have the P1 in the inside of the computer, and they know that it is the object one, the first object. If you create another object like P2, and then the computer will try to recognize that it is the second object, and it will save into a particular memory. So if I can go back to the class diagram before, okay, so the class diagram has three portions. First is the class name. The second is the recommended instance variables, which is the data member. I can see this data member. And the third one is the recommended methods of the class. So I can say it is the methods. So the first, we learn about the class diagram, and we have the class name person. We have no data member, but we have one method, which is say hi. So void means a method without any written function. Okay. So it is based on Java, but if you want to deal with the Python, yeah, you don't have void, so you don't need to use the void here. But I just want to explain this in the basic way, like in Java before. So the class diagram, you can also have something like this one, like person, and then yeah, for example, the class, the data member are name and age. So the two variables exist. The name is a string type, and age is an integer type. So we know that name, yeah, it's a character, and age is a numeric, and yeah, we can just put integer as the numeric. And we have methods for this person. So the methods are get name, get age, and set info with two parameters. Basically, yeah, you can define your own methods, and you can define your data member. It is uh, depending on the class that you want to develop. Because this is the class diagram, it is based on the Unified Modeling Language, or UML. Now you can have something with an argument, okay? So the first object that we use, we have nothing actually. So if you want to try, okay, uh, let's say I can create something here. P2 equals to person Ferraro. Okay, is it possible? No. Okay, there is no argument. Okay, so if there is no argument, then you cannot use this one. Okay, so this is the thing, this is the object, this is the argument that you should give when you have the constructor. Okay, so when you have the method called, then you will see the word Ferraro. Okay, yeah, if you see this one, the difference with the first example is you don't have the word Bernardo, but now you will see the word Bernardo. So the argument will automatically embed it into the object. Okay, but there is no storage to maintain the argument. So yeah, actually, oh, okay, I need to run this second one, this one. Yeah, in this example, yeah, I'm trying to make one example for the object oriented. So if I have this one, I run this. So I need to have one what we call as the constructor. Okay, what is constructor? So the constructor is a method. Basically, it is a method, but it is the initial instance. When you create an instance, you need to define some particular attributes, and when you create the first instance, the method init will automatically be generated. And for this one, I have a class diagram with the same name person. I have one data member which is name, and the name is a string type, and I still have the same say hi method, okay, without any return value. So you can define with this kind of class, so the class person, and then I have the init, this is the constructor, and I have one argument name. Actually, yeah, you can say that there are two. So why you said one? Yeah, because self is mandatory. Okay, so you need to put self comma name. It means you will have, yeah, self is the identifier that you need to put, but name is the additional identifier. And I want to put self.name equals the name. It means the variable name in this or in that object that you just created will be the same with the name that you input. And when you are accessing the say hi, you will print how are you self.name. Internally, this results in the call to the specifically named init method. So it is the underbar init underbar that serve as the constructor of the class. So its primary responsibility is to establish the state of newly created person object with appropriate instance variable. It means like this one. When you create a data member, the self.name will be based on this argument. And the person object contain one method and one argument. Okay. And the method is this is the say hi. Okay, this is one method and there is one argument here, and this one method will have all the attributes that you defined before. Whenever we call the data member in a method, we need to include self identifier. So that's why you need to put the self in every method, because whenever you put the self, then you can access the data member like this one. So you use the self.name. So the self.name is particular from the self.name that you already defined here. Okay. Maybe in Java you will have this. So this is the also the same identifier with the self. So let's say we have, I will return with this one with the argument. Okay. So I will return here. Now I have the initial, or this is the constructor, and there is one argument name. And once I call this name, okay, I need to put a name here. Okay, let's see if I have this one, and then I have p2, let's say person without an argument, then it will give you an error because you need to have one argument, at least one, which is the name. So you need to access with this one. P1 equals to the person with one argument. So the argument, because I know this is name, yeah, just put the Bernardo as a name. Because you know that the Python is typeless. The typeless means whenever you have the variable, you don't need to figure out the type. Python will automatically know what is it. So if you make number, then it will show the number. If you put this string, then you will see the result as a string. So for example, if a person 10, okay, and then if you say hi, then you will have hello, how are you 10, okay. If you have this as the Bernardo, then when you click the dot hi, then you will see how are you Bernardo. Okay. Yeah. So whenever you have an object P1 and you have the name Bernardo, then it will create like a kind of instance or a row. And this row is P1. This is the name of the object and the name is Bernardo. And let's say if I have P2 as Yahya, then the P2, the name is Yahya. And whenever you call dot say hi, it will return the how are you with the name that you already defined. So now the argument is stored in the variable name. Okay. We can have more than one argument. Okay. If you have one argument, maybe you think that how can I have many argument, and I don't want to put all those argument into one constructor. Okay. Now this is one example that the class consists of two arguments in the constructor. And we have three data members. Okay, you can see student name, to city, score equals to 0. Okay, because it is the initial value. And we have four methods, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. The variables call will be initialized as 0 when there is no behavior invoked. So let's see. This is the class that I want to generate. I already put this into the file, so I will share this file to you so you can take a look later. So if I run this is the class. Sorry. So this is a student class, okay, and we have one constructor, and in this constructor we have two arguments. Okay, as I mentioned to you, self uh, is not an attribute. Okay, because this is a mandatory, you need to put it to in order to call the variables in other methods. But if you don't put this one, also it comes to error. Now we have two arguments, and the arguments we also need to set the self to name. Let's say I just use the same name. Okay, actually you can put the different name, but yeah, for easy understanding I just put the same name. The stu name in the particular object will be the same with the stu name that you input in the argument, and the stu city in the particular object will be the same with the stu city that you already defined. And now you can see the score is 0. Now we have a function gets to name. So if you call this method, you will return the self to name. If you have stu, you call the method stu city, you will get the student city. If you set, okay, what is set? So the set means because the number is 0. Okay, so I want to put a number. Let's say I want to set the score is 50, 70, or 100. Then I need to set the score, and then I put one argument. Okay, so this argument I need to put a self because it is a class. Okay, And in this score, I want to put it into the self.score. So I would like to update the score. And then if I want to get the student score, then I will get the value of the score. Now, okay, that's the basic idea of this one. And yeah, about the instantiation, if I have S1 and then I define B and Yongin, then it will notice, as you might know this one, the first argument is student name and the second argument is student city. So this is the name, B is the name, and this is the student city. This is the name and this is the student city. Okay? So the student name is B and the student city is Yongin and the score is 0 because it is initial value. Then you have also the S2. S2, now you can see the S2 is another student and the name is C and the student city is Seoul. Then we have C and then we have Seoul and then the score is 0 because it's the initial value. Now what happens if I try to access the code? Let's see, if I access this one, student S1 dot get student B, S2 that dot get student city, sorry, S2 dot get student name is C. Now, if I want to get the student city, Yongin, and I want to get the student city is Seoul. What about the student score? 0. And then what about if I want to set the score? Okay. If you want to set the score here, you have one argument. And yeah, it means you want to update the value. So I want to update the student score of the student one. And I want to update it as 80. Okay. Now I updated it as 2. If I have s2 dot get store, what is the result? Yeah, that's right, the result will be 0. Okay, because I'm changing s1 not s2. So if you collect with the s2 get stu store or get the student score, then the result will be 80. Okay, yeah, so we have the, if you run the get student name, yeah, you will get B. If you run the get student name, you will get C. If you get student city, you have Yongin, and you have student city, you have got Seoul. Okay, and yeah, while accessing the score result 0, you need to set the score. So when you access the S1 for the first time, the result is 0 for the student score because the initial value is 0. And after you set the student score into 80, and once you call again, then you will get the updated score, which is 80. Okay. Now I'm going to teach you if the object that you are creating is in a file. Yeah. So before we create the class, okay, we create the class in the Jupyter Notebook. But how about if we have the object in the file? Yeah. And later on, you will have many objects in a file. Okay, so you need to get the file, and then you need to learn how to get the file, and you need to read it in Jupyter Notebook. So Python file can import other files to execute functions. An object in a file can be executed by calling the file name. And the alternatively is the file can contain main method so that the some function will run once the file is called. So we are going to make one file which is odd event, and it is the object in the file. How can you make the odd event file? So I would like to make the odd event.py. So it is the Python file. If you, I already have this one. So if you need, I will share also this file. Okay. So let's say if I launch one, so you have the notebook, you have the console, and you have other. If you want to create the Python file like this odd underbar event py, you can just create text file. Okay, and once you have the text file, let's say I want to make the, yeah, something like this one, hello. Okay, and then you want to save this. So the file name is still untitled with .txt. You can rename it. Okay, Let's say you want to rename this. This name is odd event. I already have, so for example, odd event number 2, and then you want to change this extension into py. Then you will get this is the Python file automatically. Okay, so this will be a Python file, and yeah, I guess I give you this one to create the text file and then rename the file or the underbar event.py and copy paste the next page. So please do not worry if you don't have R. Okay, R it is one because I already installed R in my computer and I already set the R so the Jupyter notebook can also read R. If your computer doesn't have the R, no problem. Don't worry. Yeah. So once you have the old underbar event.py, let's put this one. Okay. So you can just copy and paste this one, and then let's say I have this old event 2. You can copy and paste like this. Okay. And yeah, the code here. Can you understand? What is this code? Yeah, this odd is to check the odd or even. If a number which is n is the argument, and if n can be divided with 2, then it is even. If the n cannot be divided with 2, so if it is not equal 0, then it is odd. Okay. Now, how can you get this from the Jupyter notebook? Okay. I guess I already put this one in the Jupyter notebook. Oops. Oh, okay. I put this one, and this one, and this one. Oh, why I put this one in the below part? Let me just change this. Okay, let's say I have this example. This is good. You can just cut. Okay, you can just X, and then I will put here after this one. So the comment is V. Okay, now you have this. The statement here is to import odd event. What's odd event? I have the odd event. Okay, this is the odd event. Let's say I just want to use the odd event 2. Okay, now let me update this one. Odd event 2. So it means I want to import the file odd event 2 into the Jupyter notebook. And yeah, of course you need to put this file in the same folder. Okay, and okay, if I call the function odd event 2 dot check odd event, yeah, is even. Okay, so 2 is the argument. The number 2 is the argument that I want to check whether it is odd or even. And if I want to give the number 3, oh sorry, it's not odd even, but it's odd even 2. Okay, so the check odd even equals to 3. Okay, then it is odd. You can also use the other way to import. So if I want to import with the odd event, and then let's make an object. Okay, object 1. O1 is an object, and this is the object that I took it from the odd event 2, the check odd event. So what is check odd event? You can see in this, you can have the function check odd event. Maybe you feel it's a little bit strange, but yeah, this is the result after I connect to the method. So this is an object O1, and then I just put the argument. If this is so, when I run this one, so if I want to check whether 2 is an odd or even, then you can just put the argument. Now it's even. Then if you want to check 3, it is an odd. Okay. So the things, yeah, you can check from this example. Yeah, the result will be even or odd, and alternatively, you can use this one. Okay, I guess, yeah, I will stop here because still there are many things that I need to explain. And thank you for your time. We will go to the next video after short time.